Am I audible? Okay, fine. So this is your environmental studies class. So weekly one class. I think you people might know the syllabus, or else it's a mandatory credit. It has got one credit for you. So you have to clear the subject. So I think if you have got the syllabus with you, or else should I? Here you can see your syllabus. So it is 18 CIV 59. The CIE is for 40 marks and the semester end examination is for 60 marks. So it has got one credit and it has got of 2 hours of examination hours. So first module comprises of ecosystems and the biodiversity. The second module consists of advances in energy systems and also natural resource management. The third module comprises of environmental pollution, waste management and public health aspects. The fourth module comprises of global environmental concerns, and also the fifth module comprises of the latest developments in environmental pollution mitigation tools. Okay, so it comprises of the GIS and remote sensing, environment impact assessment, environmental management systems like your ISO 4001, environmental stewardships, NGOs, other things, and also there is a small field work. Okay, so this is your syllabus. So without too much wasting the time, we shall go into the classes so that we can wrap up the syllabus as soon as possible. And also the next week I'm going to give a test of for this, so which will be counted for your CIE. Okay, as sir has already put in a message, dropped in a message stating that this will be counted for your CIE. Definitely this will be counted for the CIE. Okay, so what is this? Today we shall start our discussion on the ecosystem. So it consists of this content. What is ecosystem? Three major principles of ecosystem, the components of the ecosystem, movement of energy and nutrients, linkages and interactions in ecosystem, and also environmental limitation in ecosystem development. So these are the brief contents what are present in this slide presentation. So now what is ecosystem? See, ecosystem is a grouping of organisms that interact with each other and their environment in such a way to preserve the grouping. Okay, so it is that kind of a system wherein all the like minded animals or the features are attributed at one place. Okay, and the unlike minded attributes are also present in the same category or in same place, but mutually they are present at one another. Mutually they are dependent on one another without much changes. Okay, so now in ecosystem what happens is There are a lot of animals and plants and other human beings and also other things that live together, but all of them are mutually dependent on one another. So that way, wherein their grouping is also preserved and also they also interact with each other with the same environment, is called as ecosystem. Okay, so there is a great variety of ecosystems in existence, and all of them are characterized by their own structural and also functional attributes. They correspond to their own attributes only. Okay, there are a lot of ecosystems present, but all of them are corresponding to their own attributes. Now, you can see how exactly this ecosystem is being maintained. See, here you can see the sun is the main source of energy. Sun emits radiation in the form of light and heat. So that is being observed by, okay, you can see, okay, here you can see that the sun is the main source of energy, from which lot of amount of energy and sunlight and radiation is being emitted. So these are being the plants, herbivorous plants, which depends directly on plants, carnivorous plants, which are flesh-eating animals, and also there are decomposers, there are bacteria and fungi, there are sediments which contains the nutrients. So all of them, you can see some rooted plants here, you can see phytoplankton, zooplankton, and also floating plants. So the water also contains some of the dissolved substances in the form of nutrients. So are all of them all of them are mutually dependent on one another. Okay, so here you can see how exactly this takes place in nature. See, these are the soluble mineral nutrients from which the plants have got the nutrients. There are got some soil decomposers. The plants take up the water. Okay, is it not? So this one is enough for you to understand the ecosystem, how exactly ecosystem is being maintained. Okay, you can see these are the producers. The plants becomes the producers. The small herbivorous plants, herbivorous animals eats the plants. In turn, the carnivorous are the secondary consumers, the producers. The primary consumers are the herbivorous animals. The secondary consumers are the animals which feed on these primary consumers. Okay, so the plants, what happens is, using the sunlight, they take up the carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere, they emit the oxygen and enrich the atmosphere by oxygen. So in turn, they produce certain green elements or green pigments with the help of chlorophyll. They produce the food through a process called photosynthesis. Okay, so they produce the photosynthesis and they produce the food. So that is being in turn consumed by the primary consumers. So the primary consumers, the secondary consumers are dependent on the primary consumers. So this is how usually a food chain or a ecosystem is being maintained or balanced. You can see how exactly the ecosystem is being balanced, is it not? So the plants usually contains this so the plants usually contains this. The soil usually contains the nutrients which is required for the growth of the plants. Okay, So the plants, along with the water, that is from the precipitation, takes the water through the roots. Okay, by the action of capillary action, they produce food using chlorophyll and sunlight through a process called photosynthesis. Okay, so after the food is being produced, they using this, the consumers are the primary consumers are the herbivorous animals, and the secondary consumers are the animals which are carnivores in nature. Okay, a food chain is being maintained. This is how usually a food chain is being maintained. So coming to the major principles of ecosystem, so the major principles of the ecosystem are the three major ones. One is nutrient cycling, that is movement of chemical elements from the environment into the living organisms and from them back into the environment. Through organisms live, grow, die and decompose. See, we take the food that is produced from the environment. Okay, then what happens is we consume the elements. Okay, we grow, and then when we die, we give back everything to the environment itself. That is nutrient cycling. Okay, so this is one of the major principle of ecosystem, nutrient cycling, wherein chemical elements are from the environment are taken by the living organisms, then organisms which they live, grow, die, and then they decompose. Once they start decomposing, they will give back the nutrients back to the environment. Okay, so next one is the energy flow. So energy flow means, you can see, energy is required to transform the inorganic nutrients into organic tissues. See, there are a lot of inorganic nitrogen, inorganic carbon, inorganic sulfur, inorganic iron, inorganic magnesium. All these are inorganic in nature. Using them, they are used by the tissues, or they are being converted into organic nutrients by the organisms. So this is how the energy plays a very important role. The energy becomes a driving force for the ecosystem. Okay, so then finally it is a structure that refers to a particular pattern of interrelationship between that exists between the organisms in a ecosystem. So there are the food structures, there are the chain links, so which are being contributed by the both the producers as well as the consumers. Okay, both of them are required to maintain a balance in the environment. Okay, now for example, if you know that, if we say that there are a lot of mice or rats being present in the environment, that is always disturbs the paddy fields. Okay, but that paddy fields, this snakes are dependent on the rats and other organisms itself. Okay, so if we kill snakes, what happens is the environmental balance will not be maintained. So in order to maintain the environmental balance, the snakes as well as the rats has to be maintained. Clear? So then coming to the nutrient cycling, how exactly this nutrient cycling takes place? See, the input is the solar energy. Sun is the main source of energy for any activity to take place on the earth. Sun is the main source of energy. Without sun, there is no life on the earth at all. Okay, it's only during the daylight that anything can be produced. Anything can be produced. So using the input of the solar energy, the algae, what happens is the algae consists of the phytoplanktons, and there are certain organisms which are called as stromatolites. These stromatolites are known to take up the atmospheric carbon dioxide that is present in the atmosphere, and under the action of sun they give back the oxygen. That is how during the initial stages of the earth development, lot of oxygen, carbon dioxide was present on the earth atmosphere. Okay, gaseous stage, you know that the earth underwent several modifications after its formation. Okay, there was a fireball stage, there was a gaseous stage. Now during the gaseous stage, what happens, before the formation of the atmosphere, the first organism to appear on the earth was the stromatolites. Okay, the first organism to appear on the earth was stromatolites. These stromatolites, even to today, they are present in the islands of the Australia and New Zealand. Okay, so what they do is they take up the carbon dioxide, which is essentially rich in the atmosphere, which is very much in the atmosphere, and they have convert that carbon dioxide and they give back oxygen into the atmosphere. Okay, that is how the atmosphere was formed. Okay, so the algae or the protozoans or the green bacteria or the green fungi, all of them, what they do is they take up the carbon dioxide, oxygen and water, and they produce the food. Okay, so what happens is that food is being utilized by the human beings and they emit the carbon dioxide. So this is one cycle. So next cycle is the body wastes, which are present in the body. They are removed from certain bacteria, and they that removal is also being used as a nutrients and water, which is being enriched, which is being decomposed actually, which is being decomposed. Okay, so they are being decomposed, and finally the output is the heat that is the human beings always liberates. Okay, so then coming to the energy flow, so this is one your nutrient cycling. How exactly nutrient cycling takes place? We use the food that is present from the atmosphere, and then we give it back the atmosphere itself. We die and we decompose. Energy flow, solar energy is the main one. Plants take up the solar energy in their tissues. They consist of the body tissues and also the bacteria. They give back the energy. Okay, so coming to the structure, how it is: input is your energy, producers, they produce the food which is being in turn used by the consumers. Okay, consumer, when they die, they decompose and again they form the producer. Okay, so this is one of the structural cycle. Coming to the nutrient cycling, energy flow and structure, how all of them are interrelated to one another. See here, what happens is the sun is the main source of energy. Using the sun, plants produce the food, okay, which are being utilized by herbivorous animals, and these herbivorous animals, the carnivores are the animals which are dependent on the herbivorous animals. Herbivorous animals are being eaten by carnivorous animals. The carnivorous animals dies, the carnivores dies, they decompose and they become a nutrient pool, and then they come back to the producer itself. Okay, when the producers die, they decompose and then they become the nutrient pool. The herbivores dies, they decompose and they form the nutrient pool. The carnivorous dies, they decompose and also they become a nutrient pool. So here you can see it is the mineral movement from the producers, herbivorous, carnivorous, decomposers. From herbivorous to decomposers, they become the nutrient pool and also they become producers again. Whereas what happens to the energy is, see, energy from the producers, it is given to the herbivores, and from the herbivores also some of the amount of energy is being liberated into the atmosphere. Even the producers also, they liberate some amount of energy. Okay, there is some transpiration going on, the herbivores sweat and other things happens. Even the carnivores also emit energy into the atmosphere. During the decomposition also there is a lot of amount of energy that is being decomposed, that is going to the energy. But once the any matter is being converted into nutrients, there is no loss of energy. Clear? Only in the producers, herbivores, carnivores and decomposers the energy will be lost. Coming to the next components of ecosystem, you can see there are two components. One is a abiotic component and the another one is a biotic component. So the abiotic components are the components which do not have life, but they support the life systems. They usually do not have life, but they support the life systems. On the other hand, biotic components are the components which have got life. Okay, biotic components are the components which have got the life. Biotic components are the ones which do compose of life. Okay, you can see the producers, the consumers, the decomposers. All these parts have the life. Producers, plants have got life. Plants are being consumed by either herbivorous animals or phytoplanktons. They too have life. And then decomposers. They too have life. They consume and convert the dead plant and animal material. Once the energy is released, they become the abiotic component. Okay. So then coming to the abiotic components, they form the environment and determine the type of the structure of the environment, that is sunlight and the nutrients. Sunlight is the main source of energy, and also nutrients, that is rainfall, minerals, carbon, nitrogen, etc. So the ecosystems, there are different type of ecosystems. Tropical rainfall, so desert ecosystem, that tundra ecosystem. There is grassland ecosystem, which is called by different names, savanna, the pampas. All these are the different ecosystems, are the grasslands that are present in the different parts of the globes. Okay. So coming to the distribution of vegetation, that this is how it is being distributed. It is based on the amount of rainfall. Based on amount of rainfall, you can see how it is being distributed. Rainfall determines the temperature. Okay, if the rainfall is very low, then the temperature is usually hot, so it results in a hot deserts. Okay, if the rainfall is medium, the temperature is medium, then it gives rise to temperate for grasslands like your temperate deserts and your deciduous forests. Deciduous forests are the ones where the leaves are being shed down every winter season. Okay, if the rainfall is high, you can expect some cool temperatures. Okay, and also you have got some cool deserts also. Okay, in between which you have got a grasslands. So coming to the biotic components, you have got the producers and the consumers. Producers are also called as autotrophs, as they produce their own food. Any animals which produce their own food are called as autotrophs, like your green plants. They use solar energy, chlorophyll, inorganic nutrients, and water to produce their own food using a process called photosynthesis. So consumers are the ones, they consume the organic components or the organic compounds in the plant and animal tissues by eating. There are different ones: herbivores, which are plant feeders, which are primary consumers; carnivores, which are meat eaters, which are secondary consumers; and omnivores, which are both, which comprise of both. They also depend on plant, and also they depend on the meat eaters. Coming to the one more one is the biotic component, is the decomposer. They comprise of the tiny organisms, which includes bacteria and fungi, which in turn, they turn the organic compounds in dead end plants and animals into inorganic materials. They are the responsible ones for the continuous cycle of the chemicals within the ecosystem, that is the nutrient cycle. If there was no decomposers present on the earth, then by this time you would have walked only on corpses or on dead bodies. The earth was full of the dead bodies, and you had to walk on them itself. You have to thank the decomposers, because of which they decompose the dead end dead end decaying organisms, either it may be plant or animal matter, and then they clean up the environment. Okay, and the energy that is being liberated from them goes into the atmosphere or the nutrients itself. It is enriched to the earth itself. So next, this is how you can see the sun, the producers once carnivorous, and how the decomposers and all of them. Clear? So coming to the movement of the food chain, you can see this is how solar energy, using solar energy heat, you have got the heat, and you can see plants which are producers first level. So depending on the plants, there are primary consumers, which are herbivorous, which are second trophic levels. Using them, there are certain birds which are secondary consumers, which are carnivorous, which are represents the third trophic levels. And finally is a tertiary consumers, which are top carnivores like your eagles, which are representing the four trophic levels. Okay, so all of them, they die and they decompose. Movements of energy and nutrients, you can see you have got the food chain, the food webs, and also trophic levels, biomass, and the biomes. What is a food chain? It is a particular pathway of nutrient flow and the energy movement which depends on organisms on one another. Okay, like autotrophs produce the food which in turn is being consumed by herbivores. Herbivores are being consumed by carnivores, and carnivores are being consumed by the omnivores. This is a general cycle. You cannot say that omnivores will be consuming the autotrophs. It is a general cycle. Okay, carnivores never depend on the autotrophs. They depend on the herbivores. Okay, herbivores are always dependent on the autotrophs. Autotrophs are always dependent on the sunlight for their production of their food. Okay, so this is how you can see the food chain. All of them, when they die, they decompose. Okay, so this is the food web. How exactly you can see, this is a very beautiful one where you can see that how animals are dependent on one another. See, plants, trees, deer is dependent on them. So lions are dependent on the deers. Okay, and so you can see that the deer and the rabbits are both are being eaten by the lions. Okay, so there are certain grass and vegetables which mice is being dependent on them, mice and the shrews. Okay, which in turn is being dependent on the snakes, owls. Okay, so seed eating birds which are dependent on foxes, squirrels, and rabbits, all of them. Okay, so they are the producers. These are the primary consumers, that is the herbivores. These are the secondary consumers, and these are the top consumers, are the carnivorous animals. Okay, trophic levels. So what are trophic levels? See, trophic level means a feeding level. So first level are all the producers, second level are all herbivores, third level first level carnivores, fourth level second level carnivores, and so on. It goes on increasing. Okay, so in trophic levels, what happens is the energy and nutrients are passed through the ecosystem by food chains. They are not constant, they are always in movement. Okay, and from lower trophic level to higher trophic level. Okay, always there is passage of energy and nutrients from the initial level to the next topmost level. Okay, only 5 to 20% energy and nutrients are being transferred into higher trophic level successfully. What happens is there is loss of energy due to decomposition. Only 5 to 20% is only carried out. Okay, now for example, what all the food we eat are not being taken by the body. The amount that is required by the body will be taken up, and rest is being excreted in the form of waste. Okay, so that's why the first trophic level has got a largest number of organisms. The second trophic level is less than first one, the third level is less than second one, so on. There is lot of amount of plants, there is huge amount of plants and trees that is being available, but the animals which are dependent on these plants and animals plants is very less. So the animals which are dependent on those animals, again it is also very less. Okay, so this is how you can say that the energy levels are being passed from one ecosystem to the other ecosystem, or the eco food chains. Okay, coming to the energy pyramid, you can see how this is being retained in the living system. There is lot of amount of plants that is being produced. Okay, so the primary consumers are less, the secondary consumers are also very less, and so tertiary consumers are also very less. It forms in the form of a pyramid. The basement is very large. As you go towards the top, it starts to taper. As you go towards the top, it starts to taper. Okay, so energy is lost from the living system. Okay, so that is how the basement is very wide. As you go towards the top, the energy is being dissipated, and the consumer also goes down. So you can see how exactly these producers and other things are being related to one another. Okay, so you see if it is somewhere around 20,810 producers being present of 17 lakh sunlight energy, okay, only 8,863 is your herbivorous. Okay, so primary consumers, the herbivorous are the 3368. Here you can see how energy is being dissipated. Next is your amount of energy, that is 1/4 of it is the energy that is being obtained, which is consumed by the secondary consumers, 383. Energy being lost, you can see 67% of energy is available. So 21% of the consumers are being carnivores are being consumed. 6% of energy is being lost. Okay. Coming to the biomass. So biomass means the total combined weight of organisms or any specified group of organisms. Now, if we say biomass of human beings, it is the total weight of all the human beings present on the earth. Okay. So biomass of the first autotrophic level is total weight of all producers in a given area. Biomass, what happens is decreases at a higher trophic levels. As we go on to the top, the biomass always goes down. Okay, because the consumer levels are being lost. Okay, the producers are very high, the consumers are very low. That's why as we go on top of the pyramid, usually the biomass always decreases. Okay, you can see how primary producers are being produced 1 gram of dry biomass. So using the primary consumers, the secondary consumers, and also the tertiary consumers. Okay, so this is are the number of the productivity, how exactly you can correlate them. Okay, individuals, gram per meter cube, dry mg per meter square per day. Okay, how exactly we can correlate all of them one another. So this is one small example in one of the area where the net productivity is being taken. Okay, so on a whole you can see tropical forest, how much energy is being required per square meter per year. Okay, how the productivity goes on in a tropical forest, in a temperate forest, in a boreal forest, in a tropical savanna, grassland, and also in deserts. You can see the amount of activity taking place in desert is very low compared to the tropical forest. In a tropical forest, what happens is the uh, the productivity, the production levels of the organisms is very high compared to that of the deserts. Okay, so these are the food chains, that is food trophic levels or food pyramids. You can see grass of 100 calories, grasshoppers of 10 calories, they are being consumed by frog of 1 calorie, and trout of 0.1 calorie, and humans is 0.01 calorie. Okay, out of 1000 calories of the solar energy that is being available, grass consumes of 100 calories, grasshopper consumes of 10 calories, frog consumes of 1 calorie, trout consumes of 0.1 calorie, and same human being is consuming by 0.01 calories. Okay, so it's coming to the next is your solar energy, that is 1000 calories. Alpha is a plant which consumes 100 calories. Steer is a one which consumes 10 calories, and human being consumes 1 calorie. You can see how much amount of total energy is being available, how much amount of energy is being utilized by human beings. Okay, so out of 1000 calories of solar energy, rice consumes of 100 calories. In turn, human consumes it, he only gets 10 calories of energy. Okay, another 90 calories of them are being lost due to heat transfer. So this is one example to say how much amount of energy is being present in the atmosphere and how much amount of energy that we are being consuming. Out of 1000 calories, we only consume of only 1 calorie. Okay, and the rest 999 calories are being lost in the atmosphere as a heat. Okay, so next is a biome. What is a biome? It is a totally different concept apart from the biomass. It is defined as world's major communities classified according to predominant vegetation and characterized by adaptations of organism to that particular environment. Okay, so how they are linkaged to one another: carbon and oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, and a nutrient cycle. Okay, I think I'll stop my discussion here. So if you have got any questions, you can ask me. Okay, so in next class, I'm going to continue my discussion here. Is there any questions? So next week we shall have a test. All of you drop in your USN numbers so that I can put the attendance. Those who are present can drop in their attendances. I will continue my discussion next class. So next class we shall have a test. Okay, we shall have a small test. So that will be linked to your CIE only. So we shall continue our discussion next class. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.